Well, not a lot of votes, but the mango takes it, 2-1. Welcome back to Lonely Horde Guitars. Today, we're going to apply our headstock veneer and finish up our neck blank. So here are two baritone neck blanks in progress. Scarf joints already done. They're about 3 inches wide right now and rough cut to length. The Sycamore one has already got its veneer, and now it's time to put on the mango. So when I did that original video, I did sort of just a rough outline of where I thought a headstock might go, but as I look a little closer, I've got this piece here that's got this nice peach streak here, and I've drawn a center line on that. That's where I want my headstock. So if I lay my headstock blank here, I've got plenty of space. But what I want to try and do is make something that's got like a pretty sharp edge so that it's easy to line up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put like a 1.5 inches off of this. And we're going to rough cut that on the bandsaw. And then use the table saw to kind of square things up a little bit and give me a cleaner edge. But that will help me line things up on this when I go to glue it. And then I can get that nice peach streak going down the middle. All right, our veneer is cut to rough size. We did pull our center line, so it's not really a center line, from this side at about 1.5 inches. So that's the edge that we're going to line up on. And now it's time to glue. I've got to get just a handful of scraps here that I'm going to use as cauls. Now we just let that dry for a bit. So we're back. It's been about a day since we glued this up. Not because it really needed to dry that long, but because other things came up. And the next step is we need to make this flat again. When I do my scarf joints, I work with a like 23/32 material so that when I glue on the headstock portion and the headstock veneer, I don't have to be super precise about how that is because I'm just going to run it through a planer again and smooth out this top. Now before I do that, this little lip that's sort of sticking up, I'll take a couple swipes on a sander here to kind of smooth that out because that occasionally will catch and chip from the planer. And if I'm dealing with a narrower neck blank and then, you know, glued on wings, to make it the full width, then I'll make sure that I've cut out any excess that's not supported by the backing wood, because that will also have a tendency to chip out in the planer. And we'll just hit that now. Doesn't have to be much, just enough to take that edge off. So this is my sled that I use to do this kind of stuff. It's basically just a nice thick chunk of lumber that's been flattened really well. It is set up so that I've got various stops I can just put in here, and so that the wood pushes the sled forward, but I've got room for the headstock to run off the end. So I can use this for flattening all kinds of stuff, but in this case, we just want to bring this through. And we're pretty darn close. Back at the bench, we will reestablish our center lines and then tape on some templates. And cut it down to size. Now that this is all flat and we've got a clean end of nut here, and so what we need to do is cut this to final length. So we've got a nut, goes to about 1/4, and then we're going to have a length of neck to the 14th fret, and then what we have is about 5/8 of material to do the dovetail. So for the baritones, that comes out to just around 16 5/16. So we want to cut that off before we do the final shape, because we're nice and square now, so it's going to be easier to run against the fence. Just under 5/16. And we've got about 1/8 of an inch of play, because the dovetail pocket I cut to 3/4 of an inch. So if we're a little long on this, it doesn't matter. Now for the rest of it, we are going to tape on some MDF templates and then rough cut on the bandsaw and finish up on the router table. So I'm going to start with a 1/4 inch router bit, and basically I'm only going to cut about 1/8 of an inch of material at a time. The shallower passes pretty much ensure that we don't end up with any tear out. It is the way to go. It'll take you more time here, but you'll save all that time sanding. Now we do the same thing with the headstock template. Back at the bandsaw, I just use like an old cutoff from a body blank to elevate, and then do the same thing to cut out the rough shape. And then finally, we will drill out the holes for the tuners. Again, we're using a block so that we can stay flat, and also gives you some backing so that you don't tear out the back of the headstock when you drill through. So the blank is complete. Thanks for everybody's input on the headstock veneer. Next up, we will be routing the truss rod and starting to work on the neck profile and the neck heel. That'll be kind of its own thing, and I'll sort of explain that and go into that later in another video. But for now, we can start to get a little previs on how things are coming together. This is going to be about what it looks like. If this is the kind of content you like, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.